Today's podcast explores the idea of space in two ways. One is the outer environment we live in, so our homes, which reflect our personality and lifestyle. The second is the one inside us, within our mind and body, which requires stability and peace as well. Today we have Neeta, who is an interior designer, and Deepa Chakravarthy, who is an Indologist, both of whom are columnists for the New Indian Express. And together they will combine design, culture, and the way we experience life.
Hi Neeta, thanks for being part of Inner Flame with Jvala and coming over to Trace the Space. I hear you have a design story. Would you like to share it with us?
Hi Deepa, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, Design Story is my brand. It's basically an interior design studio that I head. I'm the founder, and from a pretty young age, spaces used to inspire me a lot, and it still, is sort of unbelievable how basic finishes can transform a space, and story tells so well. It could be the most simple change that you make in your space, and it would completely change the way you feel once you enter the space. So yeah, I story tell through spaces, and I learn about people, their stories, and weave those through form, color, and texture in my designs.
Lovely to hear this. I'm really wondering now, Neeta, can you just explain how important is spaces? And usually when we think about design and what comes to the mind is that fashion has this mantra called as less is more. So do you guys also have something like that?
I think with interior design, it's not like one size fits all. It's more about, sort of celebrating who you are as a person and bringing out your personality. So it's very personal. It's very it depends on who you're working with and the kind of space you're creating. If it is somebody who likes a lot of textures, a lot of colors, then the whole maximalism is also okay. You need to be yourself in your space. I think that's the mantra we should be following, and not going by what the world goes or what the trends say. It's basically your space, and it should celebrate whoever you are, whether that's being minimal or being maximum.
So Neeta, design and living spaces and lifestyle go hand in hand, don't they?
They absolutely do. It has to go hand in hand for it to feel home.
Yeah, I feel that, like a lot of things with respect to, like there will be some things that is queued up like utility, and there's a value for, how much that space has certain aesthetics also involved in it. Can you just give some sort of a comparison now for how much our space requires to be aesthetic and how much does it need to be functional?
I think the most important thing is functionality, and with the options available today, you can always figure out an aesthetic option for it to be functional as well. Like in the olden times, in earlier times, you had limited options. Today, when it comes to materials, colors, finishes, the options are unlimited. So based on your budget and based on what sort of aesthetic sort of style you're looking at, you can always find an option in the market. But functionality is something that you cannot compromise on, because you literally have to be in that space, right? And if the space is not functional, it's going to affect a lot more things than just the function of the day. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect how you show up in the world, if you take the overall scheme of things. So functionality is not something you can compromise.
Lovely. Yeah, I know. I mean, like you can't have something, you have to have a place for everything to be remaining. That otherwise you'll keep looking and looking all around in your house. That's right. Now, can we just go so many years back so that, we try to understand how our spaces have changed, our living spaces have changed with respect to our ancestors, our, the skilled people, their lives, our lives today, pre-globalization time. Can you just bring out various ways in which our lifestyle and the living spaces have continuously changed?
I think, in the olden days, one thing that was massively given importance was community, was also sort of weaving in your profession into your house. Like, they were not separate spaces. So it was sort of intertwined with each other. All your functions were together. Your spaces were designed in a way to sort of encourage you to bring out your profession in your living space itself. That is a massive change right now. It could also be because of, we all are crunch on space right now, so the land prices have gone up.
Right.
The way the world functions today has changed. The sort of professions people are taking out, it's because the newer generation does not want to pick up the family craft, so that has also brought about this change. But for example, if you take weavers back then, their houses itself were designed to sort of help them work and function properly through the day while also living under the same roof. So their courtyards were big to bring in natural light, to bring in cross ventilation. Their walls were made of mud to sort of balance out the climate. They had a lot of jali windows for, again, cross ventilation and for natural light in the rooms that they used to weave in. There used to be loom pits, and the entire floor plan would be sort of planned around the loom pit to help the weaver function better. There would be spaces for them to wash, for them to sort of clean and dye the fabric, dye the yarns, and storage spaces were designed. Today it's become very compact and it's become very standardized in terms of your residence serves only your residential purposes, and it's not about bringing in your craft back home. It's always a separate space for whatever reason, like the economy has changed, the way the market functions has changed. There's a lot of electronic equipments that have come into play wherein you can't have them at home, or they're really large scale. So the sort of craft has taken a back seat, and I think that's a massive difference in the way we used to live back then and the way we live right now. But it's a nice sort of phase to be in the design field, because today designers are still going back to those olden times, at least in terms of materials. Everybody is still wanting to use natural materials. Bamboo, cane, everything is back, and to the world it can seem like it's back in fashion, but it's actually back for the good reason. So it's a really nice phase to be in the design industry right now.
Fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. There's another observation, Neeta. I'm sure interior design also means designing of furnitures and ergonomics that is involved in the furnitures. So when you're talking about lifestyle and furnitures, what do you think about how effective these designs are in terms of ergonomics? Because a lot of us are suffering from back injuries, couch potato syndrome, can we say that? What are your thoughts, Neeta?
Ergonomics is absolutely like the core of what we do, and the misconception is that interior designers just pick out good furniture. We also design them based on the families living or the people using it, and especially in homes where there are generations living, we have to give it a lot more importance, because you're designing for different generations, right? And their requirements are going to be different.
Right.
Your grandparents are going to require a different kind of sofa versus what you would be comfortable with. So keeping all of that in mind, we do sort of find a midway, or probably zone the spaces out so that they have their comfort as well, without compromising on what you would like in your sort of entertainment space or your hosting space. And luckily, again, we're living in a really, really lucky time where there's so much that has advanced, and the options available in terms of foam itself. If you have to pick out like a mattress or a sofa foam, there are numerous options that you can pick up.
Right.
So all of your problems are addressed alongside keeping the standard measurements inside in mind, wherein you're not sitting too low, you're not sitting too high. All of that is taken care of, and it is like sort of the science involved in interior design itself.
Right. Very beautifully said. I remember in olden days, I've usually seen that many of the things, the tools and materials that they were using in their household life were like more, like ambidextrous in nature. It facilitated, whether it is the cutting of vegetable, the tool of that, or whether it is the grinding. You could always use both your hands, and it kind of helped you to balance both the sides. But somewhere I feel that like today probably we're not looking into these kind of nuanced things a little bit more. And if you're saying that we are the design spaces are incorporating all these things, that's really nice, at least in terms of the functionality of the furnitures. But I think we need to really look into the appliances aspects also, or probably that's the reason why the gym people are gaining a lot of popularity. Anyway, Neeta, my next question is about kids. When you're talking about spaces, creating spaces for kids, how different is it? How much importance and weightage do we have to give for them? And could you just tell some things about that?
Oh, kids is one of my favorite genres
Is
to
it?
work with. Their requirements are very, very different in terms of, what would they like in their spaces versus what probably their parents would like.
Right.
But then that's our job, right? To find a midway where the kid is also happy and has a refreshing space and not a very sort of basic and neutral space. Where we keep the finishes in terms of like the walls or the basic finishes that can be upgraded or changed later without breaking the bank. We give them that sort of flexibility so that the kid can enjoy the space while they are young, and not massive changes have to be done once they grow up and they outgrow probably the color or the theme of the space. We don't, I personally at least don't believe in making something that is very theme oriented when you're investing a lot. Like I will not give you something like a bed that's a car shaped bed, which your probably child is going to outgrow in 2 years or 3 years.
Right.
I would rather give you a wallpaper which has cars if the kid likes cars. This is just one of the examples. But I really enjoy working with kids because you always get to work in a way where you have to think for them for the future as well. You can't just take in their today's needs in mind. You also have to plan for a futuristic sort of room. So that sort of challenges you creatively in terms of utilizing the space well, making sort of multifunctional furniture, and also gives you that canvas to play around with colors, which generally adults might not be open to. There are very few people who would
Correct.
want a pop of color of a fancy, like sort of an orange or a blue in their room.
Correct. That's really right. Like you just can't work with these kind of colors. The bright colors kind of pop in too much for you into the eyes, but those are things that you could probably use on to the kids and you can just have fun over there. I think it'll brighten up our spaces also when we do that. That's nice. That's really nice to hear.
Okay, so now I don't want to do all the talking, so let's flip it to you. You wear a dual hat, right? One as an artist, one as an Indologist. Why don't you tell us what do oral traditions, how do they perceive spaces in general?
Is it? Okay. All right. You are right because dancers are extremely sensitive to space. It's something that we draw a lot of energy from because it is what sustains us through an entire repertoire. One is music and another one is the space. If that space is kind of you're not used to it, then there will be quite a bit of tug of war over there, and it will kind of show also sometimes in the performances. Having said that, dancers are also working with another kind of space where we are not talking about what is external. We're talking more in terms of what is inner space. So we are kind of exploring the inner atma, you can say. So the spirit of what you are and the essence of who you are. You're trying to understand that space, and it's in a more very intimate manner. That's why the poetries are always constantly drenched in kind of themes of love. So yes, that is a very sensitive space, and we connect with our audience in terms of that inner space, which we also are kind of that's why the podcast is also named as the inner flame, because there is a certain warmth to that space. It responds to those kind of emotions, and that is the space that we are constantly exploring. Now you asked me about what does wearing the hat of an Indology. Well, I would say that the knowledge system has kind of categorically split the space as social and sacred. So that's the reason why if you were to enter a temple, you are moving from the social space, and then as you go, you are withdrawing yourself from the social space, and you are kind of moving more and more inward, looking also inward into yourself. And right when you reach the threshold of the sanctum, that's the most personal place, where intimate place where you are, and you stand out there and you are kind of in conversation with the God. So yes, that's the sacred space that you're talking that how our ancestors have divided, the social and the sacred. And this exploration is like kind of, I feel that we have somewhere missed out on the withdrawal of the social when we are moving into the sacred. So probably these kind of discourses will probably bring in some sort of an awareness to the audience.
That's amazing. It's really well curated the way you've explained everything. I'm sure everyone's going to resonate with it at some level or the other in their sort of journey to like their inner, knowing their inner self. So really well put. Why don't you tell us about Trace the Space? It's such a beautifully curated space. I really love the details you've put together, wanting to celebrate art and artists. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Trace the Space is also purpose built. So we wanted to engage with the community, one, and we wanted to break a lot of boundaries and barriers in terms of traditional and modern, and in terms of texts and traditions, also in terms of art and industry as well. So in fact, you and I, what we are doing is about breaking boundaries, where you represent a certain industry and I represent a certain community of artists. So yes, it's a crucible, it's an adaptable space where we want to actively engage with the community. We want community to participate over here in certain lofty discussions, discourses. We want to have amazing talks, events. So it's looking more excited about what this space is going to come out with and what kind of stories we are going to bring out from here.
I love the inspiration you've created the space with.
Thank you so much, Neeta. So Neeta, we are now coming here for the third segment, which is like a fun segment that we've usually planned with for our guest. Okay, so since you're coming from the interior design world and we are talking about spaces, so I've ensured to pick out a Pantone box, which is like, what it is, like full of colors. So we'll pick up 3 colors from the Pantone box. Whatever comes to your mind with respect to the color, or either it is a kind of a design space that you have done for somebody, or something that kind of resonates with a certain design space that you have seen, you should speak about it.
Yeah.
And I will probably interpret it from my dance traditions. Okay,
Let's go.
all right, here I go. See, all right.
Okay, so yellow for me is sunlight.
Uh-huh.
We love light, we love chasing light. But in rooms that have good sunlight also, like I love using the color yellow, either in terms of, walls painted, or maybe deep mustards, deep sort of ochre in like your soft furnishings. Yellow is something that can brighten up a space in no time. So even in like dull rooms where you're trying to sort of replicate that whole vibe of freshness, that vibe of light, you can probably use yellow. And I love using them.
Lovely. So yellow, when it comes to talking about yellow, what comes to my mind is that yellow is the color of the female characters that a Kathakali actor wears on their face. It's called the Stri Vesham, the feminine characters, and usually these yellows are supposed to be like a calming kind of sattvic color, and it's kind of an exploration of that in that sense. And another thing that I when it comes to mind with respect to yellow, since you had mentioned ochre, is that the particular color of the yellow ochre is associated with what is called as Vairagya. Vairagya means withdrawal of the mastery of the way in which you can withdraw yourself from the world, the materialistic aspects of the world, so that your gaze, your inner gaze kind of gets an elevated kind of perception. Awesome. All right. Now it's your turn. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Interesting. Again, going to the Kathakali itself, the green is the another level of exploration of the characters that they wear. It's called the Pacha Vesham. So Vesham as in character, and many of those characters that we explore are in the hero characters all wear green color, and my favorite among the Kathakali dramas is the Nala Charitram, in which Nalan wears the green color, and to give a spin, Nalan undergoes a certain kind of a trauma in his life. So there is a switch that happens from being Nalan. His entire external kind of changes into blue. So that's where you have a little bit of green and blue shades painted, where he becomes from Nalan to Bahuka. I'm sure the mythological people who are into these Puranic tales will understand what I'm talking about. So tell me what green comes to your mind.
Oh, green obviously means plants to us. And I think, half of everybody's issues will be solved once you add a lot of plants in your space. And we always try and sort of bring the outdoors indoors. And it's sort of a non-negotiable in my projects. And I really hate it from the bottom of my heart when people say, let's get plastic plants. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Just get real plants and you will see the change in your daily life.
Okay. So why don't you do the honors of picking the last card?
Okay, it's red.
All right, red. My turn to tell?
Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about red, I think pretty much everybody will understand that the psychological tone attached to red is more of anger and passion. So I think that says it all. The characters that we play, most of them is even if you're talking about Ramayana, particularly in Kathakali, then Vali, the heroic character, the brave guy, he is painted in red shades. Red kind of is painted like that because it is talking about the Rajasic guna, or the nature, the inner nature that is towards movement, and that's the space that they are trying to explore.
Nice. I think for me, red, I always resonated more with love, and it could be shades of red. It doesn't really have to be really loud. That sort of resonates with anger more, but I think red always has meant love for me. And we also follow this theory with interiors where we follow the something red theory, where in a space, basically, if it is a more of a neutral space, or more like balance of other colors of the same palette, if you bring in any red element, it sort of uplifts the place instantly. It could be a cushion cover, it could be a vase, it could be a photo frame, it could be any piece of decor in the smallest form also. Like you could have a very neutral sort of seating and you add one piece of red in it, and it sort of just uplifts the space completely. So the something red theories, that is what I really try and apply in my spaces as well.
Lovely. Something red, that's something new now I've learned. Okay.
So Neeta, thank you so much for being here. I just thoroughly enjoyed having this conversation with you. I hope our audiences have gotten some contrast between the way in which we have interpreted space. Thank you so much, Neeta.
Thank you so much for having me here, Deepa. This was really fun. And yes, I hope the audiences have learned something today.
Today I learned that interior design is not just about beauty or trends. It's about how every space actually makes us feel something, and it affects our emotions and thoughts, whether it be a temple in Hampi or just our living room back home. So the question is, does your space allow you to actually see, or just give you more things to look at?